Welcome back. This video is going to be dealing with the initial settings that you can choose before creating. In the last video, we went through and we made our plot, this flat piece of land here. I think a lot of new designers, I know I didn't when I was first creating, don't realize these three options right here, the layout, the terrain, and the appearance, are really here and how they affect your course, specifically the layout. I think a lot of people can tool around with the appearance, and some people do with terrain, but the layout specifically, I thought it was just about creating a new auto-generated course, but there's actually quite a bit here. So this is probably going to be the longest video, and this really is a tutorial for beginners, but we're going to go through all of these options in case you never have. So these are for greens. All of the greens, fairways, and tee and width slider to deal with. I always taking mine all the way down to 0. However, this will affect when you generate a hole how big the size of the green is. I actually haven't looked into slope too much. I think this is only for auto-generated courses, but I think this affects how when you auto-generate a hole, how slopey your greens are. This is hazards. I always take that down to 0. That way when I design a hole, it won't pop up any hazards for me. The speed you can tool with later. This is how fast your green is going to be. It's going to affect not only your putting, but the ball will roll a little bit farther or a little less far depending on how fast the speeds are. I believe there are 5 ticks for green speed. I could be wrong about that. I think that actually might have 10 now that I think about it. But we're going to just leave that there for now. We'll come back to that later. You can change your flag color, which we'll leave alone. The firmness, which that should be pretty self-explanatory. Same thing with the slider there. The fringe width, the width of the fringe, and your mow patterns and your mow intensity. So make sure you tool around with those. Fairways for this, this is the fairway width. I'm gonna take that all the way down. I advise that you do too. Your start distance won't matter. Your hazards you take down. Oops. Hazard start will not matter. Firmness, this is the same as green firmness. You should be able to figure that one out. Mow pattern and mow intensity, and then back to width. Tees and rough has quite a bit to it. I don't think I created one yet, but tee furniture is there's your tee bag, and there's some other little things on the tee with you whenever you tee off. I personally like having them off, but it's up to you. The tee color will affect where you're teeing off from. It'll give you a couple different colors that you can choose from, as well as what you want your tee markers to look like. But then we're going to have the important ones, which is rough width, which you want to take all the way down, and heavy rough width, which you also want to take all the way down. Other things that you want to look for, I should explain why I'm taking the width down on all of these, this rough width and the heavy width as well. Now when I go to make a hole, which we'll delete this one later, but when I go to make a hole, it's not going to generate anything. It's going to generate a little bit of a green and a little bit of a tee box, but this way every time I make a hole, I don't have to hover over and I have to change the width manually. It's going to make my tee box, and it's going to make my green, and then I get to do the rest, which is exactly how I want it. So that's why we change those all at the beginning, just because it's easier that way. The final little things that you want to do when you're designing is the hills and the water, I won't really play with. Now that I've gone through and I've made a flat terrain, I can change the hills all I want, it won't matter. I can change the water all I want, it won't matter. The ones that will matter is the rocks, the plants, and the grass, and the trees. Whenever I'm designing, I keep the trees all the way down. It's really nice when you create a hole to leave the trees down, and then when you populate them, some people put in all their own trees. I like doing the auto-populating just because it looks more random to me. And then a lot of people leave the plants and grasses all the way up too. I personally like taking the rocks out of it. The closer that you are to water level, the more rocks it'll generate. And honestly, they just look more like they get in the way a lot of times. You can generate them yourself or leave them on a little bit, but for now we're going to take those rocks all the way down as well. The final thing is the appearance, which a lot of people I think tool around with, but in case you haven't experimented with, this is just what this is. You can go in and you can change the theme at any time. If we decide later that Boreal is getting boring and we actually want a rustic, or we want to switch over to Swiss, we can. It won't really affect much. We can change the backdrop. We have 3 different versions here that we can change to in case we want a more mountainous Boreal course here, which doesn't really matter. We can change that at any point though. And then the time of day. This one takes a lot of time to really nail down. This really does affect the ambience of the course and how it looks. The easy money is usually on setting it to morning, and then taking this inclination of the sun down, and you see all the plants are kind of shining it there, but you got to kind of plan the course and change the orientation around so it's not really hurting you too much. For purposes of the video, and honestly when you're designing, I think you should do this too, is to put the sun at the top and in the day so you can kind of see what you're doing, so nothing's really out of sorts. And then you got the weather. There's not too big of a difference in clear and dry, but overcast is nice and it's fun playing the rain sometimes. So that's all of your initial settings that you'll kind of want to tool back and forth with. The only other one that we'll talk about is in the last update, HB gave you the option of changing your colors. So you can, down there mine is triangle for select texture, but you can actually change the colors of everything. It really has opened the game, so thank you to HB for doing that. A lot of the courses look a lot different now, but you'll see I just changed the green texture there a little bit. We won't mess around with that, but you can certainly do so on your own courses. Those are all the initial settings that you'll want to play with. In the next video, we will be talking we'll be talking about another great advantage of going manual as opposed to autogen, and we'll talk about what hole I'm going to be designing. So, till the next video.